So what do you think? A billion people using crypto in a decade? Will it happen?
I think it'll totally happen. And, really the question is, where are these individuals coming from and what are they going to do? And I think we often think about crypto in this speculative nature, DeFi is the center of attention, but really what crypto and Web3 enables is access to banking, access to content. So, even echoing Brian Armstrong, things like DeSo or decentralized Twitter are definitely in the works. But even at the graph, we like to think about this as the next step in iterating the gig economy. So, people like to stake their tokens, on Web3, and it's very similar to holding an asset and expecting it to be useful, in fiat or Web2 world. But here you actually get to work for a protocol. So we're really excited to see what this looks like, where people actually start working for the technologies, putting their capital to work, and actually getting to earn a portion of that revenue.
Meantime, there's still a sort of Wild West feel about the crypto landscape. Coinbase is also now cracking down on the issue of people front-running tokens based on whether Coinbase might be about to list them. What's your take on that?
I think just like in typical startup world, you're going to have 9 out of 10 startups that don't succeed. And similarly in crypto, the value of the token or the productivity of the token in a protocol, or the success of a community is still going to be reflective of its quality. So I think that we need to start focusing a little bit more on which tokens and which protocols are sustainable, which are going to actually provide real value in the next decade or, 2 decades, 3 decades, and which are the communities that are going to sustain themselves. One major difference between Web3 and Web2 is the switching costs are much lower. It's really, really inexpensive for a user to start using a different dApp or a different protocol, whether it's just transferring tokens to another wallet, or really just completely up and moving. And so I think these product teams, these communities have a lot more pressure to deliver high quality experiences.
Meantime, the SEC is adding 20 more people to its team policing crypto markets. I'm curious, does that signal more regulation, more enforcement coming?
We've always been fairly open that regulation is welcome. It's not that the crypto industry wants to be unregulated. We just want more clarity. So, in general, this bodes well for having more resources focused on our industry. And, our goal really is to have more folks that are, applying the law and applying their policies in a way that's conducive with innovation and not stifling growth, as is possible in this new wild west of development.
The industry is still scaling, still working on interoperability, and there's a lot of work to do. What's your role in that at the Graph?
Yeah, so we as the Graph, as you mentioned, we're an indexing protocol, and really all that means is we're trying to make it easy to organize data, making it easier for developers to access that data. People will often call us the Google of blockchains. And so we're really here to unite all developers, full stack, backend, and make it easier for anyone to build across applications, across chains, and acting as a uniting layer where, any API, any way that you can access data should be open source, and anyone should be able to do that and build on top of any protocol.
So I'm curious about your thoughts on open source and how far that goes. What do you think about open sourcing Twitter's algorithm?
I think that's a great idea. I'm all for the decentralized movement, especially with something as useful as Twitter. My general stance with open source, versus closed source is I think there's a lot of FUD around open source ruining business models. At the end of the day, sustainability is really what matters when it comes to a good business or a product. And if you can continue building, to actually continue building on a protocol, whether it's open source or closed source, is a challenge. And so the protocols and dApps that are more likely to succeed are the ones that actually innovate on top of existing models rather than just replicating and copying them and moving on.
And how do you see the Ethereum merge impacting the broader landscape? Just how sort of tectonic do you think that will be?
I think there's a few narratives here. So, on one hand, this is the first major blockchain that's moving to proof of stake. I think there will be ripple effects and how does this impact other chains? But more broadly, I think it's the first step for, non-technical people, non-developers to see what it really means to have your assets put to work, to have a utility token like Ethereum, Ether, and being able to actually earn revenue and generate income as an individual from participating in that blockchain. It's a completely novel concept. Even the gig economy is fairly new, but Web3 enables this possibility that individuals can have full sovereignty over their assets and the way they contribute to technology.